Greetings and salutations, and we're gonna go back to episode, I don't know, of the Woodless run. I'm still trying to find lava in large quantities. Because if I can find lava in large quantities, or large enough quantities, I can finally be free of this existence. Ah! Good thing I put the splashdown pool. I got you thinking. This was, I don't know, a couple days ago. It was about 3 days ago, 3 or 4. And I made mention of it to my mother, right? I said, nobody really cares about the philosopher anymore. The thinker, right? They used to have R&D departments in games, research and development. They used to have R&D departments and everything. But specifically in games, too, they had people researching and developing, how things were to be done, right? And they had people that sat there and thought. Now, this is not uncommon. I mean, for the longest time, you take a look at the Greek philosophers and everything, right? Beautiful. Oh, that's glorious. So now I just need to make... Nope. I need to make a bucket brigade pool. Make unlimited water. Perfect. And then we need to continue to chisel away and get more of this lava out. All right. Aha! There's some obsidian. So anyway, I was telling her that philosophers are not really seen as worthwhile anymore. And it's sad, to be honest with you. Because it used to be that philosophers were looked upon as real men of, like, ideals, and like there was a point to philosophy, right? You used to have the big thinkers back in the day, and that's gone by the wayside nowadays. The big thinkers aren't really, you don't have them anymore. Perfect. Sounds like a very angry zombie over there. I don't need too much of it, I just need just enough. Then anyway, think of the old philosophers, the old Grecian philosophers, the old Roman philosophers, right? You never really had... You never heard about, like, them receiving payment for what they did, right? But they were always thinking big, on a big scale. They were thinking very grandiose things, the big what if questions. I mean, just take a look at any of them, like Plato, Socrates, Hippocrates. Now, Hippocrates was the father of like modern anatomy and father of modern medicine, and hence the Hippocratic Oath, right? But it's like, but what did he do beside that? Like, how did he make a living doing that? Because he really didn't, if you think about it. It's not like they kept paying him coin for research. No, it's like he was left on retainer so that they didn't have to worry too much about it, right? They just like, oh yes, well, he's here and we have him, we have him on retainer just kind of sitting there thinking all the time. There had to have been something. But these people were revered in society for the ability that they had to be able to ask very hard-hitting, critical thinking questions. That's all but gone anymore. Right? Most of society does not have a big thinker like that anymore. Like, the majority of society just doesn't see a purpose for it. And that's, to me, is incredibly sad. Imagine, if you will, they brought back the era of the big thinker, right? People pondering everything, questioning quite literally every single thing in their life, knowing that the answer they might come up with may be beneficial to mankind's advancement, right? And just knowing that makes you kind of want to ask questions. It makes you want to have a theory about things. Be that as it may, we will, well, I have to wait in here until daytime. So that gives me plenty of time to think. So, be that as it may, we are left with what? Influencers today? You take a look at things like the TikTok generation, they have short attention spans. You have people who they think, but they don't think critically. They don't ask questions to a degree of wanting to know more. Kind of like that whole Starship Troopers meme, you know the meme where it's like, would you like to know more? That kind of thing. Nobody really asks those questions, and then asks things like, what if? And that's kind of the whole premise of what science and society was based off of, was you'd sit down and there's like, oh, well, there's this established norm, right? The established norm that exists. And you'd say, okay, but what if? And by asking that what if question, it would generally lead you down almost like a rabbit hole, right? You'd have this, you go with this what if question, and then from that, you start asking more questions. And one often leads to another, right? Come on, I used to be able to make that jump. Now I can't. What gives? And so, going down that rabbit hole of asking all these what if questions gets people thinking kind of in the extra linear sense. Right? They're not thinking in the linear here and now. Matter of fact, what I'll do is I'll just build this across. There we go. They're not thinking in the linear sense. They don't just sit there and go, ah, yes, well, if this, then this. No. The esoteric thinker, the people that think outside of that, will sit there and go, okay, if this, then this, but what if? And then there's some sort of relativistic middle ground they put in, right? And when you put in that relativistic middle ground, it makes things pause and think, right? Even AI, you can even pose questions like Chat GPT, Grok, etc., and you will get a very similar output. I mean, there was one time that I was sitting there having a discussion back and forth with Grok, and I'm just waiting for daytime here. It's not quite there yet. I was having discussion back and forth with Grok, and the discussion I had back and forth with Grok was about space. And it's like, I sat there saying things like, could light speed be achieved by use of intermittent thrust propulsion? To which I was met with, yes, in a vacuum it could. Because as you intermittently pulse forward, using like compressed air or whatever, your maximum speed is now your new standard speed, and then that little burst makes it a new maximum. Bye-bye. But I posed those questions, those very types of questions to AI, and then I had this discussion about, is it possible to potentially get to, is it possible to get to time travel using dual rotating pair singularities? And I was met with, yeah, there's a potential, and so on and so forth. So it was interesting to have that discussion, so to speak. We're going to consolidate all this redstone stuff before we go on our little sojourn. And this might just be the end of the series. This is quite interesting. And just for funsies, I'm going to make it right over here. Looking off in that direction. It's hard to think, and this is just me kind of in savoring the moment here. It's hard to think that many moons ago, ow, it's got to be one block higher. Hard to think that many moons ago, this was just a thought in my head of, could it be possible? And now it's quite truthfully coming to completion. And you'll see the type of spawns I get in the nether. But there we go. We officially made it into the nether without using a single log. Not a one. I only died, I believe, one time. But there it is. That is the nether portal I have stepped through. And to prove that I have not harvested a single log, as the run is now complete, because my goal was to get to the nether without using a single block of wood. Watch closely. I have not used a single log. I have not harvested a single piece of tree, and I will show you. For those in disbelief, give me 2 seconds. New recipe. And that's it. That just proved that I did not collect a single log. Everything I did, I either took empty chests, like the one that was back at when I got my first bonus chest. Not really a bonus chest, it was the one at the disheveled portal. I got that. I got the bamboo. I found the horse. I ended up getting a saddle out of one of the chests in the village, and I traded for leather cap, I believe. I threw the leather cap in the chest and then took the saddle. I was not just going to take everything from them. It was if I took something, I left something. I took potatoes one time, and I left trees. And the only reason I had the trees is because I was cutting down the leaves. And when I cut down the leaves, I kept getting saplings. But it's like, what's the point in growing them? I don't need them. Then I came here, took the library, had it blown up twice by a creeper, but we made it. Before I sign off completely, I'm going to delve a little bit further into the whole era of philosophers being over. And it's one of those things where I think people would do well to sit down and start questioning just everything. And people say, well, what do you mean question everything? One of the founding fathers said, question everything with boldness. Even the existence as if there is a God. You have to question everything with boldness. Now, obviously, there are people out there who are agnostic. There are people out there who are atheists, and they do not believe in a God. I believe in a creator. I have to. When I take a look around, this is not all just random happenstance. This is not just RNG through the cosmos, everybody out of the primordial ooze, not a chance. There is some sort of divine planning to it. And everybody's life kind of has that same divine planning, if you think about it, right? Think about future you and past you. What if past you made a decision? What if past you in the past, made a decision that makes you into the you of the future? And that you in the future is successful because the you in the past made that decision, and either it came out to be fortuitous or it was a mistake. One or the other. And then you become successful in the future. Now, past you made that mistake or made that decision in that way because past you knew through a divine plan that future you needed to make that decision in that way to have future you end up where future you needed to be. It kind of delves into the whole quantum entanglement, right? Except with this quantum entanglement, it's quantum entanglement within your own lifespan. Where past you and current you and future you all have achieved things because of one another. Future you needed to have certain things happen at a certain time. And when something happens in your life, you sit there and you're caught in it in the moment, kind of lost in the sauce, if you will. And then what happens? in the future, you look back on it with hindsight being 2020, and you're like, oh, that's why it happened. Now you know. Short video, but that's the run. I walked down the hallway, I heard the lava, finally got it. We made it to the nether. I did not use a single log, and I harvested one right at the end just to prove that I had never touched a single log. Otherwise, I would not have had that recipe pop up. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed this series. I might consider doing something else in the future with Minecraft. I don't know. We'll see. But I hope everybody has a fantastic evening, a wonderful tomorrow, and as always, have a good one.